Beginning ODO podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ODO podcast, where normal is not my specialty, and you know what time it is. It's the last show of the month. That means it's time for the guest of the month, and this month of March. Is it March? It's still March. Because I do this. I seriously just pull this out of my ass every week. I have Lisa and Sam from I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam, because when you introduce them like that, you're kind of forced to be redundant.
That's kind of true.
Yeah, it is true. Sorry.
How are you, ladies, today?
We are awesome.
We're doing good.
We both just finished work. We cut work out a little bit early just for you, Adam.
Aww. Yep. Now I feel all special. Less Ed than usual, more special. Thank you. Yeah, it's spring break around here. The kids are all home, and my wife is actually taking the week off of spring break. So she's home this week, and it's kind of turned into spring cleaning break. And so I actually my sister came over and brought her older kids, and we were spending all morning cleaning the garage out. I was like, oh,
wow. So did your wife give you like a honey to-do list?
Oh, yeah, I've got so much garage cleaning to do. And Mondays normally, because I don't work on Mondays, so that's I'm getting all of my housework done. It's when I do all the laundry, and I'm getting caught up on all that other stuff, because I don't have to worry about, do I need to sleep today?
Right.
Not that lately I haven't been sleeping the way I normally would. It's like, oh yeah, put the boys down for a nap, but I'm going to take a nap too. And lately it's been put the boys down for a nap, and I'm going to sit there and work on the website.
Yeah, I've been following you, and you've been working a lot on that.
And yeah, I was just trying to get, because the whole editing business stuff is great. If I had a website for somebody to go to and say, hey, I want to hire you, clicky, clicky, clicky. I don't have that built yet. So I've been trying to do that. And it's like, I've been doing this for 9 months. If you go back to when I started working with Emily Prokop, it was last June, I think. And so like, I probably should finish building this website. I've owned the domain for a while. It's like, build the web page.
We don't even have a website, really.
We do kind of.
We do kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your Podbean site functions pretty efficiently.
Yeah.
I like that about Podbean is that they have that.
It seems to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does the job. I mean, seriously, you do you guys own the domain? No. You feel like you guys need we
own nothing.
Yeah. It's like $15. You should go and do that.
Is it, but then we have to build a website, don't we?
No, you can connect it to your Podbean.
Oh.
Yeah, the Epic Film guys, that's the same way.
What is it, $15 a year?
Yeah, it's like $15 a year.
Oh.
I don't know what the conversion is into Canadian, but maybe $20 Canadian. I don't know.
Maybe we got to look at that. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's why.
Well, because we can get our own website, like our own name.
Yeah, and have ishakemyhead.com, which probably is probably already taken. But ismhead.com
Adam, we got no clue. Sam's looking here, like she's like a blank slate.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I don't know, but it could be there. You never know.
You don't know.
But I figure because the name of your show is kind of a common phrase.
It could be gone.
It could be gone. Odddadout.com was gone. It was there for 2 years. And I didn't buy it. And I didn't buy it because I hadn't really built a website. I just kind of had a thing on Blogger, but I never built the website. And I never bought the name. And I finally I'm upgrading equipment. I'm going to buy the name. Hey, there's a sale. Yeah. I'm going to build a nice formal website and all this stuff. I'm going to do all the stuff. And I look, and odddadout.com was gone. Somebody had snatched it up, which is why I'm odddadoutpodcast.com.
Oh, okay. So snooze, you lose.
Yep. And I actually asked Emily if she bought it for me, because she has this habit of snatching her friends' domains up if they weren't taken, so that they don't get taken by somebody else. And she was like, I didn't do it, but that is totally something I would have done.
She's so nice.
Yes, she is. She's awesome.
Good old Emily.
Let's see. iShakeMyHead.com is owned.
Oh.
It looks like somebody just uses it like a placeholder for whatever the hell.
Like one time I bought something. Maybe I bought it.
It's like hotels and protein shakes, and it was like somebody like owns the website and they just direct it for like ad traffic or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But we'll find it.
Yeah,
we will find the name.
We'll find one.
We'll have to look at it.
But I'm excited to have you guys on here more, like half because of the whole never actually had a conversation directly with you guys, and
that's true.
And I'm just loving this whole having people on the show and getting to talk to all of my podcaster friends that I interact with on a fairly regular basis, but I don't get to talk to. And I feel like the easiest way to do this is to say, hey, you want to come on the show? And it creates like a scheduled time to do it.
Well, it's really cool. It's really cool to get to talk to people because, yeah, it's like you said, right? We talk in chat rooms, we talk on social media, but yeah, you never really put a voice. Do we sound like we thought, like you thought we might?
Well, I listen to you every week.
I guess
I know
true.
what you sound like.
Right.
And for all
and we
you guys,
don't change our voices
no,
at
we
all.
don't.
Exactly. And for all you guys, talk about what John does and cleans up your audio, like he just makes it sound cleaner. He doesn't mess with you guys any. So
no,
it's
not really. No.
Yeah. And it's I'm gonna be curious because I want to see what he says about what I do. I was like, yeah, hey, I'm gonna sit there and have to do what you have to do every week. So let's see how I can pull this off.
I think it's funny because when John does it, he just puts it through. Didn't he say he just runs it?
He
through
just
something?
processes it.
Yeah,
and adds in the music.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sure that we're chock full of like ums and ohs and all of that. But I think with our podcast, because it's just a conversation, I think it's one of those times where it's okay to keep it.
Exactly. I mean, I leave a lot of that in for me, and then other times I'll fumble over something and cut it out. But I mean, you can't, especially in the whole I'm pulling this out of my ass 90% of the time. So I mean, if I cut all the stammering out and I cut all of that out, then it doesn't feel right. It feels scripted.
Right.
So I know, like,
exactly.
If you ever go and look at the show notes on my website, if you look at the more I have written, the cleaner that episode is, because half the time I end up nearly repeating a lot of those sections as I wrote them, because it's just like I start like, oh, I'm going to talk about this and click, and start typing it out and have written a novel. And then I realize when I sit down, I end up almost reading it, but all those thoughts and everything that I had typed out is now in my brain of the things I wanted to say.
That's so funny.
And it also makes for much shorter shows. I sat there writing for 3 hours, typing up show notes, and it all is great. And I've got all these long page, and I talked for 30 minutes total. I'm like, oh. But,
and it's funny with us lately. We find we're going longer than what we're used to going.
Yeah,
because we just get going, and it's like, God, we're just not shutting up on time.
But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm perfectly fine listening to you.
Well, and our show notes are getting shorter.
Show notes? You guys have show notes?
We have we don't. We have a blurb.
We have a blurb.
You have a blurb. I think this week I had a blurb this week, and last night I actually sat down and typed up most of it. I sat there while my wife thought I was like, she was doing something for schoolwork, and she was like, hey, keep the kids away from me so I can finish taking this test. I'm like, all right, give the little boys my laptop, like, here, watch Netflix. And I sat down at the computer and just started typing up like expanded show notes to kind of flesh out the webpage. But it's just more and more stuff.
I think with us, I think that like people always talk about show notes, and to be honest, do we even really know what that is?
No.
Right? So we just do a blurb that just tells people a little bit about our show, about that episode, and then all we do is we thank John, and we just put our social media, and that's kind of it.
Yep.
Because you know us, Adam, we're untraditional.
Exactly. I mean, the only reason I started doing more show notes writing was, well, one, if I'm doing them early, then it helps me kind of collect my thoughts, because half the time I don't know what I'm going to talk about until I turn on the mic. And
exactly.
It was like you guys, for at least you claim, you at least plan and have an idea. I mean, every week you say, hey, next week we're talking about this. I couldn't do that if you paid me.
And sometimes that's really hard for us too, because we don't even know what we're like. We'll sit there and we'll be like, what do we want to talk about next week? And it's like, oh, then we got to think about it, right?
Exactly. And the best I ever have is if I have looked up the news stories, and maybe I'm a little bit ahead. I'm never that far ahead as far as news goes, because I kind of tend to pull it from the weekend. It's usually like Sunday, Monday, I'm pulling news stories for the show, and I might have an idea of what show I want to feature. Like, right. I know what show I'm featuring coming up, half because I wanted to talk about them for a while. It's kind of the, hey, upcoming features are A, B, and C. And the other half is a bunch of news stories this week led me into, oh man, I've totally got to use this show, because all the news stories I'm finding are leading in a very sexy direction. That's going to totally push me towards this show. Perfect.
See, and that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Kind of
like with us, like Sam, how do we figure out what we're going to talk about?
You come up with dumb stuff.
I don't come up with. That's nice. Yeah, that's nice. I think we've always, you know what? The only reason why we come up with a topic is because when we first started, that's what we thought you did.
Yeah.
We thought you needed to have a topic.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you do. And that's the great thing about podcasting, is that you can come up with a topic and have a topic and know every week, hey, I'm going to talk about this next week and that next week. So Daniel J. Lewis says you should have a year's worth of topics planned out, so you
know, my God,
like at least I know.
Can you imagine?
That's the thing about when you look at the advice that comes from a lot of the podcast experts. A lot of them are kind of, they don't look at, if you're in comedy, 9 times out of 10, the advice you can get from these guys does not apply to you unless it's like technical advice, like microphone stuff and equipment, and hey, you should build a website, stuff like that. But when it comes to constructing your show and planning and like show notes even, or naming episodes and things like that, none of that applies if you're dealing at all in comedy, because if you're in comedy, you have to have kind of a cutesy, silly title. Usually your title of your episode is a reference to a joke or something from inside the show.
Okay. So when to your point exactly, Adam, so when we come up with our title, it's always based, we never know it ahead of time.
Nope.
We have a topic, but when we as you probably know, the majority of our podcast is just based on just random, just conversation. And that's all stuff that just through the week, things pop up and we jot them down, and then we want to have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. So when we come up with the title, it's after we've recorded 2 things, right? So usually it's based on something we've talked about, but it's also based on the Bitmojis, right? So a lot of, right, because we need to have the Bitmojis that match kind of the title.
That's sad.
Can we make a Bitmoji that's going to fit this?
Yeah, right? So sometimes we think we have a great title, and it's like, there's no Bitmoji to go with that.
Yeah.
I still love the fact that you guys had a poutine Bitmoji.
I know. It's in there. It's in the app. It's all the app, not us.
It's so Canadian.
How the obscure of, I know. It's like you guys have like Canadian Bitmoji or something that just comes with poutine.
Nope, not at all. But that was so funny. So the Bitmoji has a lot to do with it too.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And I had an interview with, and I'm blanking his name, the editor of Podcast Business Journal. Nothing has come of it, but he had done an interview with me a while back, and he'd asked me about my artwork. And I was like, he's saying, I was like, you're kind of an artsy kind of guy. You have all these really elaborate show art. And I was like, no, I don't. I drag a bunch of random pictures that are relevant to the episode into Canva. I was like, yeah, I spend about, I will say, I spend about an hour on the artwork every week.
Right.
But probably half of that is spent on looking for images. And if you really go back and start looking through my artwork, I get very repetitious with backgrounds. I have built up a folder of backgrounds that I was like, okay, and I've trimmed them. And was like, okay, the picture is 3,000 by 3,000. I'm going to create an image. I'm going to like, I need grass. Where's grass? And snow. And I've learned if I ever use the snow background, I guess the snow background image I have is super high def. And so it becomes, the file size is always too big if I use the snow.
Okay.
Like, it's snow. How many colors are in a picture of snow that this is such a high file size? But I always have to go and shrink it.
But that's so cool because like that's even way more high tech than us.
Way more.
Like so when we come up with our picture, everything is 99% of everything is done on my phone. So we downloaded an app called PhotoGrid, and then we just upload the Bitmojis, and then then it lets me add in text, and then I send it to Sam Friday morning saying, here's 3 choices. Which one do you want to use? She picks, and then that's it.
And that is so awesome. The fact, I mean, I remember back when, you guys, okay, I have to ask. I know because I actually have a Patreon, or not a Patreon, a Podbean account. Because way back when I first was planning the show, I was going to be on Podbean. But so I have a Podbean account, and I have the app because that was my primary listening app for the longest. But it didn't sync up with the Bluetooth, the controls in my car. Okay. And so I couldn't like push the next button on my steering wheel to skip episodes or whatever. So I switched it. I know, kind of a really stupid reason to switch, but I liked having the not pick up my phone if I had to pick an episode, whatever.
Right.
But I know in the Podbean app, you have the option and the ability to record straight into it.
Yes.
Is that what you guys were using before?
That's what we used to do, 100%. Yeah. We would put the phone, I'd hold onto the phone, and now we're so high-tech now with the Zoom 6 and everything. But yeah, and that was the whole reason why we used Podbean, because it's like, well, it's right there, how hard can this be? So we would just take the phone, we'd hit the record, and then I uploaded it from the phone out into the world and everything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of funny, because that's actually why I'm on Spreaker, I was doing the same thing, looking for apps to record podcasts and stuff for my phone. And I came across the Spreaker app and the Spreaker Studio app. And so they have a separate app in their system that has like sound effects buttons and all that stuff. And you can load music and all of this, but it's an app and you can record and it allows you to live stream.
Oh, okay.
And so that's my first 2 or 3 episodes were actually done from the car while I was driving home, just talking into my, first night I didn't have cruise control. Second night I was like, I'm doing 85 last night. I need to put this on cruise control. And it was done on my drive home from work. And the joke I kept saying was, if you are paying close enough attention, you can probably figure out where I live by listening to the bumps and the turn signals as I go.
That's so funny.
But yeah, it was just driving home.
But it's so convenient, and it's funny because Jennifer from Podbean, she has a podcast. It's called Podcasting Smarter, and she actually had us do a show with her because I think, and I'm assuming it's because they couldn't believe that we just did it all right from the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I remember John in the beginning when he first caught on to you guys that. He was saying, I was like, yeah, it doesn't sound great, but it's all from a car. It doesn't sound bad for just being from a car.
Just not on but it's still, now it's just now we just have a contraption with the Zoom recorder.
We have a Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John wants us out of the car so bad.
Oh, I know. I love it. He talks about it so much. What I find funny, I find this hilarious, is the episode you guys did from the HHG's house.
Oh, yeah. We caused him much grief with that one.
Yes.
I find that hilarious because it didn't sound as good as you guys sound in the car.
I know.
Exactly. And it was so fun. And it was funny because we consulted with John, right? Because it was just too cold and the HHG would have none of it. She's like, all day at work, she's like, you're coming inside. So I texted Sam and I'm like, I don't think, the HHG is really persuasive, right? And I'm like, I don't think we're going to get around it. No. So Sam, you tell the conversation you had with John. Right, you talked to John about what do we need to do.
Well, he told us what to do. We had to get close, but it was just there's too much space.
There's too much space, and you're right. And as soon as I sent it to John, and then I listened to it, I'm like, oh my God, it's horrible. And John's like, it's horrible, but it's passable for 1 week, right?
And I think the big thing, and it's an audio trick But
it must be something we sure as hell didn't know how to do.
Well, it's the funny thing is, like, I'm in my bedroom. I'm actually not in a very great space because I'm basically in a corner next to a window. I've got nothing in here. A lot of the time I've been putting a blanket behind me for doing like the big guest stuff, but like I do that for guest episodes. I don't normally do it.
Yeah.
But this room isn't great for this, but it works. But they say the cheapest, it's not necessarily cheapest, but the easiest sound deadening space you can have is actually a car.
Yeah.
Because there aren't a lot of flat, it's not a lot of flat surfaces. The only real flat surface around you is the windshield, and that's kind of rounded. And all of the doors and the seats, and there's no flat surfaces, and they're all padded and insulated, and all these. I mean, cars are designed to keep the outside noise out. So a car is a great recording space versus a great big empty room. Yeah.
That's so funny. And it's funny because when we advanced and we got the Zoom 6, Sam's dad built us this little gray box. So you know, like where the console is between the two seats, we have this little box that props up the recorder a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Little stuff, exactly. I mean, my sound deadening, big air quotes here, is a clothing rack with a bunch of blankets on it that I basically take some like big industrial binder clips and like clip it to my closet door and my curtain rod.
Yeah.
I was like, here, okay, now I'm in a big blanket box. It's hot in here.
It's so funny, hey? Yeah, it's so funny. And you know, and we've just that was our gig right from the beginning, was just chatting in the car.
Yeah.
Because it works. And I'm not about to tell you guys to get out of the car unless you're freezing to death, in which case I'm right there with Michelle. You know, if she needs a second person to throat punch you and get you out of the car when you're freezing, I'll do it. Because I'm pretty sure that conversation would have ended in a throat punch if you guys had insisted on staying in the car.
Well, that day it would have been. But that's been the only time in 2 years, right? Because there was one episode like last winter where we almost like had carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah. I remember that. You almost died. Everybody was worried for you, and so no.
It's not our best moment.
These two Canadians were not at their smartest that day. But it's like, hey, let's just go to the underground parking garage. It'll be warmer. Sure.
Yeah, sure. We got to turn the air on, no. If you're going to turn the heat on, what's the difference?
Right, cars running, heat's on.
Yeah.
By the time you get home, you feel sick.
Yeah. And no, I haven't been there. No. I've never been.
So
I was going to say, I've been there. No, I've never had I've always had the sense to open the garage.
I bet not many people have. No.
That's usually a form of suicide. That's not a good thing.
No, exactly, right? No, it wasn't. It was not our smart. But you know what's even funnier is that it was John and Jessica had to point it out to us.
Yes.
They put it out. Not your best move, guys. No.
But you're still here, and that's really what's important. You are still here, and you guys. I mean, I need to go back. Because I listen to so many shows, and I have so many podcast friends, and they're so awesome, and I love looking back on how I found you and how it is that we became friends, because this is the silliest thing of all things. Because I look at like Heather from Sunshine and Power Cuts. She was doing the podcast share that Emily Prokop had set up. It's like I had been one of the people on there for 1 week, and it was her turn, and so I started listening to her show, and we became friends through that. And it was funny because with you guys, I used to have an account with Social Jukebox back when they had a free option, and now it's $20-something a month. Fuck that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just for them to post my like preloaded social media stuff. No, thank you. That's too much money. But it's like I barely pay that much for my hosting for the podcast. Exactly. I'm not paying that much just for social sharing. Now I have a thing on my website that does it for me. But anyway, That's one of the perks of building a big fancy website now that I'm learning that. And I was like, oh, I can push a button. It'll send this to all of the social stuff for me. Yay.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. only been at this for almost 4 years and I'm barely learning that shit. But I had a post on Social Jukebox back in the day that was, I think it was like, it said something like, subscribe to the show and I'll be your best friend.
Yes.
And next thing I know, I have a response from you guys.
And we had a new best friend.
Exactly. And we've been best friends since, and it's been great. And I love you guys so much. And
because I remember seeing that. And then I remember you left us a review on iTunes, and it was an episode. You had listened to something about how I was talking about how I like to eat my cereal without milk, and I called it raw, unmilked cereal, and you replied back saying that you agreed.
Raw cereal, that tracks. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
And then the bit with because I had to ask you guys, what is a yum yum pickle?
Yes.
I did not understand.
Right.
I was like, I've never heard of this pickle. What is this pickle?
That's right.
And it's like, I know kosher and bread and butter pickles and hamburger dill pickles. And,
yum yum is the best.
And I guess here it's just basically a sweet pickle. But it was like, I've never heard of it referred to as a yum yum. And I guess it's just one of those, hey, here we call this one thing something completely different. It's like how in Australia, Burger King is Hungry Jack's, I think.
Okay, that's different. But yeah, isn't that funny too? Because sometimes things we talk about are really only just to Canada.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm learning a lot about, especially between you guys and the guys and Steven from Better Podcasting and a couple other people. I'm learning more and more about Canada. And like Cyanide from Little Geek Lost. She's always, I think I responded to one of her Instagram posts, because it seems like every day she's taking a selfie with her coffee from Tim Hortons.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, at this point, I think they need to be paying you for the amount of social media exposure you give them.
That's so true, hey? Exactly. It's so true.
I'd say you guys should be in the same case, but you usually are kind of shitting on them for something, so.
Yeah.
It's like, we love Tim Hortons, but, fix this.
Yeah, it depends, eh? Because if we were going to talk about Tim Hortons today, we'd be shitting on them.
Yes, we're not happy with them.
We're not happy with Tim Hortons today because we got chicken fingers, and they were cold. Like, they were made at noon.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah. No, we'll shit on them on Thursday. I'll add that to the notepad, Samantha.
And I think I think you may not know this, that Tim Hortons is actually owned by Burger King now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No. Yeah, Burger King Burger King bought Tim Hortons a few years ago.
Huh.
And
no, I didn't know.
It was people talked about it at the time. They thought that they were going to start incorporating Burger King food into the Tim Hortons menu. People were getting pissed because it was like, the handful of Tim Hortons that are in the States. I think there's some in New York and up in that area, just right there on the border. And they were like, if Burger King destroys my Tim Hortons, we're going to riot. And then it turned into, oh no, basically that's just we're expanding the ownership of the brand thing, because if we mess with them, they're going to riot. But if we try and, a lot of people were like, oh, hey, maybe they'll incorporate the Tim Hortons breakfast items into the Burger King menu and expand it.
Oh, that'd be okay.
And I think all they may have done is they used the same coffee beans.
Oh, okay.
I think that's all they took. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, man, we could get Tim Hortons donuts at a Burger King and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I've yet to see this go anywhere, but
at least
it's like, to my knowledge, Burger King corporate actually owns like Tim Hortons corporate. And whether or not, like, if there's franchised out what the ownership structure is like, things get tricky.
Well, and what the problem is, I think too, sometimes with like the donut shops, and that is, in my opinion, they're trying to do too much, right? Like Tim Hortons, like, just do your donuts and do them well, right? Yeah. Do donuts, do bagels, do muffins. We don't need the sandwich. I get the breakfast stuff is fine, but we don't need I don't think we need the lunch.
Well, now they have like Potato wedges.
I know, but like, do we need them at the Tim Hortons?
I don't know.
Like, I don't want to go to Tim's because you know what it is. I think 90% of Canadians think of going to Tim's in the morning.
Yeah.
We don't really think of it as going there for lunch.
No.
Yeah. It's the same thing here with like Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to call them Dunkin' Donuts. Fuck you guys. There's donuts in your damn name.
Yeah,
but,
right? We talked about that. A couple weeks ago. I'm going for the donut. That's what's getting me is the donut, not the Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Call back here. And I mean, I grew up I was in a Catholic school. There was a Dunkin' Donuts right outside the school. And so that was the hangout after school. And we all went to the Dunkin' Donuts. We'd all sit there. And I was in like second grade, but my sisters were older. And so we would all go hang out with all the upperclassmen, and we'd all hang out at the Dunkin' Donuts eating munchkins and getting chocolate milk or whatever.
I love that they're called munchkins. I love that name. I love that the little Timbit is called Munchkin.
Yeah. The donut hole.
Yeah.
It's got a fancy name wherever you go. But you just sit there like eating munchkins or whatever. And I had moved away from Phoenix for a while. And when I moved back, one of the first things I did was start like taking my wife to see all of the places, you know, it's like, oh, here's the school I went to in second grade. Here's this school. Here's that house that I grew up in, and showing her all the things. And the Dunkin' Donuts we went to is gone. I'm like,
oh no.
But now,
right?
like
That would be horrible.
I've never seen a Tim Hortons close down.
I don't know if yes, the one by your house on 8th Street closed down.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because the other one was too close.
Because the other one's too close. And that one was old and you couldn't get to it.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like a weird, like it's like crack, eh?
Totally.
Totally crack. Like you just got to have a Tim's. You got to have a Tim's.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I will say, it's like, I'm not a huge Dunkin' Donuts person. I actually don't go there very often. It's like, if we get like a gift card or something from work or something, like, oh, I guess we'll go to Dunkin' Donuts. Because it's expensive. It is.
But what's better, Dunkin' Donuts or is it Krispy Kreme or?
Krispy Kreme. I will say, hands down, the best glazed, just straight glazed donut you'll get is a hot donut from Krispy Kreme. Nothing beats that. But it's got to be you go there when the hot donut light is on.
Oh, okay. See? But you don't hear as much about Krispy Kreme as you do about Dunkin' Donuts now.
It's kind of regional. It really is. Certain parts of the country are diehard Krispy Kreme. Other parts, like down here in the Southwest, there's not as many Krispy Kremes. We are much more Dunkin'. But when I lived in Texas, I've never seen a Dunkin' Donuts in Texas. But the Krispy Kremes are all over. But I say, I never would go into a Krispy Kreme if the hot donut light isn't on.
There's a certain light that tells you?
Yeah, on the sign, in the middle of the Krispy Kreme sign is a big red light that says hot donuts. And when that red light comes on, whenever you walk in, as soon as you walk in, there's somebody standing there on the machine making the thousands of glazed donuts. And they're just handing you, they hand you a free hot glazed donut. Like you have to blow on it.
Oh, that'd be like a mini donut at the arena. That'd be so yummy. Oh, that sounds so good.
Oh my God.
Like yum.
And it's just free. It's like, hey, hot donut, here you go. And while you just sit there munching on your burning your fingers hot donut while you're picking out the rest of your stuff.
But that's the same. That's like what they do with the mini donuts, right? Like at the arenas and stuff, right? They come right out of the oil, and you just want to eat them hot.
Oh, there's a food truck we went to. One of the festivals we go to every month that was like that. We had to wait about 20 minutes because they were making them all fresh to order.
Nice.
And they were
Nothing
like, okay, we're gonna double box these because they're gonna be too hot. And you literally watch them go with just these little mini donuts out of this tiny little fryer in this rig they have, straight out of the fryer, like shaky the oil off, straight over into the basket. And then they throw the glaze, and we got a Tutti Frutti, which was, so you've got like the yellow cake donut with like pretty much a standard glaze and Fruity Pebbles on top.
Oh, wow. Hey, get in my belly.
I was like, oh, this is so good. But we had to wait like a good 15 minutes for these things to cool down before the boys could eat them. They were so good, but like that is the best thing when you've got a donut so fresh that you have to wait for it to cool down. That's the best thing in the world.
That's pencil me in.
Yes. And I know you guys love the food trucks too.
You guys always have, you are always going to like different food, like truck wars and stuff, aren't you?
Well, out here in Surprise, there is, well, in the Phoenix metro area out here, there is a group, I guess you could think like the Food Truck Fridays group. And they basically, it's almost like a union, if I could describe it any other way. Yeah. But there's this one organizer, she gets all of these events together, and there's a couple of them where like every Friday they're at this Sam's Club over here, or they're at this park over here, and they'll have 15, 20 trucks they'll just organize them to get them all out there and have this big event. And one of the events they do every month is Sundays in the park. And so we have the Surprise Stadium, which is actually it's the spring training facility for the Kansas City Royals and the Texas Rangers. Actually, cool. So we get to watch like spring training. I love it. Cactus League spring training. There's about 10 or 12 MLB teams that actually do their spring training here in Phoenix. And so we get to watch, I could have the Diamondbacks and the Cubs playing literally a mile from my house.
And that's funny that you say that, right? Because remember when, what is it, like 3 or 4 weeks ago when the HHG was in Arizona, she went and saw two spring training games.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things here. I actually used to, it was a couple of years ago, but I work as a carpet cleaner, but one of the services we do, because we also have a janitorial service that's kind of a sister company. And one of the things that we started doing was some commercial kitchen cleaning. And so for at least one whole season, I was having to go and clean the kitchens after all of the Cubs games out at Sloan Field.
Cool.
And so I'd have to go in there, like scrub down the fryers and do all the, and it came from hey, we got this contract to clean fryers for the Cubs. I was a restaurant manager for 13 years.
Okay.
So I was the only person with restaurant experience to know, is this good? The bosses came to me and were like, okay, we did this. Like, is this good enough? How's this look? I was like, no, yeah. And it's like, well, you need to just get your fingers under that right there and really scrub. I was like, take the gloves off. The gloves are just going to get in your way. I was like, but aren't the chemicals going to deal? Don't worry about the chemicals. You can grow new skin. I was vicious, but I was like, I'll do it. You guys go over there and clean some grates. Hold on. I'm going to sit here and sacrifice my arms and get this steel shiny.
That's crazy.
But it was such a cool thing because I got to go and hang out at the Sloan Field, the Cubs stadium out here. And it's so huge. But it's like every week I was having to go out there and do this, and it'd be there for 4 or 5 hours. And it was just so awesome to be like 11 o'clock at night in an empty baseball stadium.
Yeah, like that would be amazing. It'd be amazing.
I know one night we were there, they were actually filming a commercial, and it was like, I forget what it was. It was one of the pitchers or something. And they were like, oh yeah, you guys have to wait to do this kitchen because they're filming a TV commercial. And we get over there and we find out who was there. We're like, seriously?
Wow.
You couldn't have said, hey, you guys want to come over and meet I think it was the pitcher. It was like, you want to come over and meet him? And all we could think when we finally got there, we were like, man, you guys left a mess. It's a good thing we don't have to clean up your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was just like, it's one of the things I like about living in Phoenix is that stuff like that happens, that we have all of these things out here that's so close. If I wanted to, I could go watch baseball games all spring. And big teams. It's not like, oh, I can go watch another Diamondbacks game. I have to drive all the way into Phoenix. I got a 30-40 minute drive to get to Chase Field.
Yeah.
But I've got Surprise Stadium literally a mile from my house that I could go watch all these big teams during spring training for next to nothing.
Exactly. That'd be awesome. I would love that so much.
And right next door is once a month they do these huge food truck festivals, and we get 20 food trucks out there, and we get to try all this different stuff. And like, I can get barbecue and donuts and grilled cheese and lobster.
Samantha, the time's coming. Hey, it's almost food truck season. Sam reluctantly will go, but when she's there, she's okay. You're okay once you're there, big girl. You'll do it, right?
Yeah, I wasn't so sure the first time, but after we did it, I was like, we get excited for certain trucks now. Now it's like, I've tried at least 4 different Philly cheesesteak trucks. And I'm down to, I feel bad because the one I tried this week, the guy lays the claim to, I'm the only person from South Philly in Phoenix selling cheesesteaks. Like, all
so
these
he
other
claims
like,
to be more authentic.
Yeah, it's like, there might be other guys that claim to be from Philly. I'm the only one from South Philly. I'm like, I don't know what difference that makes, man. You're in West Phoenix, but you definitely got the accent down, and you definitely, I know the lingo. Like, so, like, okay. Unfortunately, he's the second best cheesesteak I've had.
Oh, not the first.
It's not the first, but I want to at least next time. I want to give him another shot because I went with my standard. I was like, what would you suggest? Tell me, what would you rather I do on this? Because I went with what I want.
Well, and Sam's now a pro with that because you do the Philly cheesesteak right from there.
I've had them twice.
You've had them twice.
Yeah, you've kind of got an in.
Yeah, I do.
You've got a Philly connection.
Yeah,
So-
she does.
Wink,
Nudge.
wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes.
I'm not as bad as Jessica. Jessica gets dirty. So, like, I love Jessica. One of these days.
Jessica's dirty. Jessica, right? I love her, but she just says it. What she wants to say, she just says.
Yep.
This is
One
fair.
of these days, I got to get her on here. It's going to be.
She's like when she did our podcast. She did our podcast. She did an episode of it
The
for
American.
Thanksgiving, and she's like, she's hilarious.
Yeah.
We declared her our roving American,
Yep.
And then John got upset.
and then John got upset because he thought he should be the
John-
American. So then we had to have a male American and a female American, and we'll have to have her back on again soon too.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, I was friends with y'all before John.
I know,
I
right?
know.
It's like,
You know
not
what the
that I'm
thing is
jealous
that
or anything.
podcasting isn't as
It's a
well
war.
known in Canada, so most of our friends are American.
American.
America.
There's going to be a war over, who's really your best friend. Who's your best American?
Exactly. And and in fairness, we did sign up to be Adam's best
Yes,
friend.
we did.
Yeah.
We have that in writing on websites.
You got Jersey, you got Jessica. I'm your
I know.
kind of Mexican.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Come
that
on.
crazy.
So many people. We
Yeah.
love them all.
I'm a half Mexican. Doesn't that count for something? You'd never believe it.
That's funny.
No lie. No, really. No true. No lie. I'm actually half Mexican. But
Really?
yeah.
We don't have a
my mom.
Mexican.
Yeah,
No, we
you don't.
don't.
I'll
Do
be your
not.
Mexican. I'm your Mexican-American.
He's our roving Mexican.
Oh my God.
I think
We'll
it's
come up
pretty-
with some fun for that. Give us some time. We'll come up with something for that, Adam.
Your international incident. Your roving Mexican is a white dude from Phoenix. Oh my God. We'd be all over the papers. Great. More listeners. They'd all go to your show, not mine. That's the problem.
That's right, hey?
I'm fine with that. More
That's so
traffic for
funny.
my friends. I'm fine with that because it'd be great if I had a million listeners every week. But if anything, I do get somebody else to listen to somebody else. Fine. 'Cause the whole sharing is caring, and like Heather pointed out last month, that me doing the guests every month is really my celebrating connections.
we
like
lost
she
you again.
says. I still hear you.
Okay.
It
We
sounded
didn't
like
hear
a truck again. It sounded like a truck again. Did you guys
It's
have
weird,
a truck?
And it was kind of like a minivan. It's like a guy who wants to give us a ticket because we're parked where we're parked. Because when we do interviews, Adam, you probably don't know this about us. When we do
No.
interviews, we're not at the Safeway or the Walmart or the Lowe's. We're actually we're by the lake.
It's not a lake.
What is it?
It's a river.
Okay, we're by the river.
Well, we got tons of those here. That's something that I want to do. When I grew up out here, my grandparents were kind of one of those, the border crossed us kind of families. The Mexican
Okay.
side of my family has always lived in the same area of Arizona, even when it was Mexico. This is where we're from. And there's tons of rivers all over the place. And so I grew up, we're always going to the river and going, hand fishing. Back before they called it noodling, we were hand fishing.
Usually.
And I don't know why the hell.
Noodling?
When you just catch the fish with your hands.
Yeah, it's like where
God.
you like reach around in a river and like reach into the mud and you find like a mud hole and that's where the catfish live and you just shove your hand in there and pull a catfish out.
No, thank you.
And yeah, it's mildly dangerous. You can lose a finger. My cousins used to do that all the time. And this, this is 20 something years ago. But we'd always be like catching tadpoles or whatever. Yeah, I was like, it Facebook Messenger blinked on me, and I was like, oh shit, did I lose the connection? And it was my wife telling me, hey, the kids are asleep. We need to figure out what we're doing for dinner.
And what is for dinner tonight?
I haven't the foggiest. We've had so much other stuff going on tonight.
No, that makes sense. We're going for pasta.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's very springy here, so I'm feeling a little angsty because, I have food hang-ups. And I said to Sam, I feel we need to get one last pasta out of the way.
What's one last pasta? We have pasta like twice a week.
No, I won't eat pasta in the summer. It's too hot. It's a hot food, and now spring has just come really, really quickly. So I'm like, I'm feeling pressure to have pasta before it's too warm.
Yes.
You and your food neuroses.
I'm an odd duck, Adam.
Yes, she is.
That I cannot understand is all of the food neuroses, but I understand the logic of some of them, but the not eating pasta after hot dogs are I don't understand how you can say no pasta in the summer, but you still eat hot dogs.
Hot dogs are different. There's some exclusions, right? So like hot dogs are all year round for sure, and two, because you can barbecue them if you want to.
Yes.
But pasta, to me, like just pasta when it's hot. Like I don't want roast beef in the summer. There's lots of stuff I don't want roast beef. I don't want in the summer. It's too hot.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I could say no soups, but because I don't eat soup, but just in a general way.
No soup in the summer.
Yeah, I can understand no soup in the summer because soup, you feel like in the winter you want a soup to warm you up and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dinner should be hot. I don't care what the season is. Dinner should be hot.
Just like it can be hot. It just can't be certain parts of hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be hot, but it can't be hot. Got it.
It can't be too hot. No.
You understand what you just said. I want my food to be hot, but I don't want it to be hot.
And isn't it so weird that we just decided to put all of our weirdness just out there for the world?
Yep.
I know.
So crazy.
I've been doing this for almost 4 years, and I still don't understand why it is that other than I know I can just talk for no reason in particular.
Yeah.
Because I find it funny that I do what I do, because I get comments all the time from people that, how do you do that by yourself?
Well, I think that would be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody tells me. I was like, how is it that I remember when I did a podcast we listened to, and Jeremy was genuinely surprised that the show was 90% improvised.
Wow.
And that I do what I do, that I'm, like I said, I'm pulling this out of my ass. I don't, like, for this whole thing, no preparation.
But you know what, though? It works for you, right?
It's working.
Exactly. It's because I just want to have a conversation. I want to have fun talking to you guys. The preparation I had to do was hooking my mixer up to my interface so that I can route the call. That's preparation for me. That's okay, I got to take the call here, and it's got to go there, and it's the background stuff. And I said, screw it, I'm not going to bother putting this away. Let me rerun these wires around so I don't have to set this up next month. But that's preparation for me.
That's big time.
It's like the only prep I had was telling you guys, hey, I need a podcast recommendation.
Exactly.
Hell of a transition, hey?
Hey.
Do you need one? You ready for one?
So, well, I totally didn't do that on purpose. Again, pulling this out of my ass. Let's just say it's time for this week's recommended listening. Recommended listening. Take it away.
All right, we have one, and actually, you know, it's a fellow Canadian, and it's Nooks and Crannies with Matt Sanderson, and he's like, you know, it reminds me a little bit of you, Adam. Actually, he sounds like you too.
Yeah, he does.
We did his podcast. Was last week or the week before.
Yeah.
And afterwards I said to Sam, he sounds a lot like you. And just a really fun podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He just talks about everything and anything, and he likes sports, and he likes
Yes.
it's just a lot of fun. It's just a nice, how sometimes you just like those nice light, and you don't have to really get too involved and too much thinking. That's our recommendation.
Yeah.
The only Nooks and Crannies episode that I can say I've listened to was the last interview with Lindsay and Perry.
Yes, because he's really, really, really good. He was really good friends with Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember listening to that.
That was a real tough interview to listen to, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Because it was filmed, or he recorded it while Perry was still alive, but was obviously dealing with his cancer and things like that. And yeah, that tugged at the heart. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a tough one to listen to. And what pulling back the curtain here, I literally listened to that. I listened to that episode while I was at work.
Yeah.
And about 5 minutes later, I go get on Facebook and see the message from Lindsay that Perry had passed.
I know, because it was released that quickly before, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so I'm listening to this, and it just, oh.
Yeah. And what a sad situation that was. And those two are such great people. And, I mean, like Lindsay's so strong and doing so well, and I can only imagine what that journey must be like.
I know, and it's been really something seeing what's her life in the last few months since then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just the strength and how the whole podcast community just really rallied around their struggle and their fight, and Matt was a big part of that.
Yeah, and I remember because they had Maddie's Corner on the pod stuff, and I remember it was one of their first episodes was he was on from the Sim Pod, and I was like, wait, this name sounds familiar, and it wasn't too long ago, and it's like, oh yeah, formerly of this, like, oh, you stopped doing that show, oh, okay, that's why this, like, I thought you were somebody else.
But and we had a great time on his show too. Like he's a lot of fun. He's a good soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He made a great Spotify list too.
Yeah. He made a Spotify list based on our embracing of spring early. He did a radical 80s list and he posted it, and then he asked us to give him a playlist too.
Yeah.
So that's what Sam and I did Saturday night. We were texting back and forth. What about this song? What about that song? What about this song?
Yeah.
So he's just a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I could never do that. I'm barely getting into Spotify now. The only reason I have Spotify on my phone is so that I can share the Instagram post of my show on Spotify.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much
I'm on Spotify. Share the Spotify thing. That's it.
Yeah, I don't have their handles and stuff like that, but it's out there.
Links will be in the show notes, as they say.
There you go.
But thank you guys so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I got to have you guys on here and we got to get this worked out, because there's so many people that I want to have on here, and I realized, like, I need to start doing more guests every month because I've got so many people I want to talk to. Like, I should probably actually reach out to Emily and say, like, hey, I've known you for so long, and I'm talking to everybody else but you, and we've been friends so long.
Well, we appreciated it, and we appreciate you, Adam. Like you do, you are a huge fan and a huge supporter, and whenever we ask for things, you always send us things. So we appreciate all things you.
Thank you so much, and you guys are you're so fun and you're so awesome, and I couldn't not have you guys on here. And I was like, if I'm going to have guests, I'm going to have my podcast friends on here, I have to have Lisa and Sam because they're awesome, and you guys are just so great. And so thank you.
That's so sweet.
That's so nice.
And
thank you.
So, any final parting words before we get out of here?
Samantha?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Really?
Keep listening to I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam.
You know what? We're just trying to have fun. We're just trying to lighten the world.
We are.
Right? We're not trying to teach you things. I think that's very evident.
Yes.
And we are just two friends that are just sitting in a car, just talking about each other's ridiculousness.
That's mostly you.
It is.
Talking about Lisa's ridiculousness.
I have just a bizarre mind, right? So my mind just thinks of weird things, and then I jot it down, and I'm like, I got to talk about this week.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's fun, and that's the best part. Like you said, you don't have to do a lot of thinking.
That's all it is. It's just lighthearted. It's just, it's only to just take everybody's mind off of their life for 1 hour, a little bit longer, have some laughs. And I think for the most part, I think we're fairly relatable too. So, we're not really like a gender specific, right? We kind of, I think we talk like this week, we talked about urinals because why? We had some questions. Sam had questions. Right?
And so we can find you in all the places, in the Facebook and the Instagrams and the Twitters.
You bet.
Where are we?
All of it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're out there and just, we are in your face.
Yep.
All right. And you can find me at odddadoutpodcast.com. Subscribe, do all the things there. You know what you're doing. You're listening to a podcast. Come on. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at odddadout. And if you have a suggestion for me, somebody that you think I should have on the show, or a show you think I should be listening to, hit me up, show at odddadoutpodcast.com. And until next week, oddballs, thank you and good night.